Hey everyone, it's Kathy.
And Paul here with iDulting.
We're here to help you navigate the crazy world of adulting.
Because let's be real, it's a wild ride. We'll be dropping tips, sharing stories,
And maybe even spilling some embarrassing secrets along the way.
so get comfortable, grab your favorite drink, get ready to laugh, learn, and level up your adulting game. This is iDulting. Don't forget to like, follow, and or subscribe, and share this podcast. Head over to iDulting.com for more information and to submit questions for us about iDulting.
And maybe even pick up some of our new merchandise. And if you know any fellow adults who need some guidance, send them our way.
And feel free to share this podcast freely out there. We'd like to get our numbers up.
Hello everyone. On this bonus episode, we're going to be discussing some pretty heavy stuff. We want to let you know this episode contains dangerous coping mechanisms and talk of suicide. If these topics are triggering to you, please stop listening now. We've been having an online conversation with Captain Adam A. Meyers, a Wisconsin police officer, and Paul, as a fellow public safety professional that has also experienced some pretty significant traumatic events, wants to help get Adam's message out and hopefully other people stop suffering in silence. Unfortunately, in his performance of his duties, Adam encountered a very traumatic event that changed his life forever. This is his story, in his words, read to you by Paul.
Hello, everyone. This is Paul, and this is Adam's story. The aftermath of a police officer's critical incident. My name is Adam, and I have been a police officer in Wisconsin for 23 years. I am also a certified peer specialist in Wisconsin. I began my law enforcement career in 2001 after serving as an active duty United States Army military policeman. In April 2016, I was involved in a critical incident that changed my life forever when I used deadly force on someone who armed themselves with a hatchet inside a busy department store. This person died. I suffered in silence for many years after my critical incident, and I was ashamed for the ways I poorly coped. I still feel shame for the ways I coped and treated people. I find it hard to believe that nobody realized or even had a gut feeling that I was not doing well. I could not have been that good at hiding my poor coping strategies, or was I? I have always wondered if people were slowly watching me self-destruct because they did not know what to say to me, how to help me, or they simply did not want to get involved. It has taken me many years to get back on track. There are many different coping strategies that people may use after experiencing trauma. They may be good and healthy, or they may be bad and unhealthy. My coping strategies were bad, unhealthy, self-destructive, and dangerous. I used alcohol, marijuana, casual sex, and self-harm as some of my poor coping strategies for years after my critical incident. My poor coping strategies easily put my relationships, job, and health at risk, but I did not care. I wanted to escape from what I was feeling. I wanted to numb my emotions, my thoughts, my body, and any memory of taking someone's life. I wanted to feel better, even if it was only momentary. I was selfish, reckless, and I did not care how my self-destructive and dangerous behavior may have affected my family, friends, children, co-workers, and the public. There were many times after my critical incident that I did not want to go back to work. This was not because I had other plans or that I was too hungover from consuming too much alcohol, another one of my poor coping strategies, but because I just wanted to stay at home and isolate myself from the world. I wanted to lock all the doors of my home, close all the curtains, and shut everyone out of my life, which I did many times over the years. Sure, I called in sick from time to time, but on one occasion, I intentionally injured myself so that I didn't have to work. I used an old 12-inch adjustable steel wrench to cause superficial injuries to my left knee. I struck my knee a dozen or more times, enough to cause redness, abrasions, and bruising, and limped into the local emergency room. I explained to the doctor and nurses that I had tripped and fallen down walking out of my back door and struck my knee on the steel covering an underground septic tank. My story was believable enough. I received x-rays of my knee, a prescription for pain medication, and crutches. I was discharged from the emergency room with a doctor's letter releasing me from work for about 1 week. This occurred during a busy holiday work week. Although I was not able to truly celebrate the holiday, this deception got me out of work and I was able to enjoy the time alone at home. Another way I was able to get out of work was to intentionally make myself sick. I remember while taking a shower before my shift, I was thinking about the many ways I could get out of work. While putting on my ballistic vest, uniform, boots, and duty belt, I thought to myself, I'm going to get out of work by binge eating and making myself vomit. I constructed a plan to visit the local Burger King drive-thru while traveling to work. I ordered a bunch of breakfast food and made sure I washed it down with a large soda and a large orange juice. I needed to make sure I added beverages to my breakfast buffet to ensure it would all come back up easier. I continued to travel to work and passed a local McDonald's and thought, two is better than one. I quickly binged what I purchased from McDonald's and proceeded to work. I arrived at work, and upon exiting my vehicle, I masterfully played the role of a sick employee. I walked into the police department and made myself vomit in the bathroom. I made sure the bathroom door remained open so that anyone walking by could see or hear me. I made sure not all my vomit made it into the toilet and landed on the floor for added effect. I was immediately sent home. Another of my many poor coping strategies I used was abusing alcohol. Prior to the incident, I collected wine and enjoyed a glass every now and then. However, after, I began abusing liquor, mainly whiskey and the cheapest vodka I could get my hands on. I would consume whiskey and vodka straight from their bottles, on the rocks, or I would create my own cocktails by combining over-the-counter liquid sleeping or liquid allergy medicines. There were times I would mix in whatever leftover prescription medicines I had in my medicine cabinet, and it didn't matter if they were prescribed to me or someone else. For example, I remember one instance when my oldest daughter had leftover prescribed liquid cough medicine containing codeine. I combined whatever was remaining in the bottle with a glass of wine. I was on a prescribed antidepressant called venlafaxine while I was abusing alcohol. The label on this medication specifically stated, do not drink alcoholic beverages while taking this medication. A warning label did not deter me from abusing alcohol. I very well could have blacked out and never woken up from consuming these dangerous cocktails. But at the time, I did not care. Abusing alcohol may have been a quick fix, but it caused me even more stress, anxiety, and depression. In September 2018, I drafted a written contract with myself to not consume alcohol. I don't remember writing the contract, but there was something inside of me that recognized how self-destructive alcohol was. The contract quickly became null and void because it took me another 3 years to reduce my alcohol consumption. Another way I dangerously coped was by drinking and driving. Prior to attending any type of social event, even as simple as going to the grocery store, I would consume alcohol. I would travel to a nearby gas station, purchase many small bottles of liquor containing about 1.5 ounces of whiskey, vodka, or whatever I could afford at the time. I would immediately consume the alcohol in my vehicle prior to traveling to my destination. I tossed empty bottles in the back of my vehicle or out the window while I was driving. I would rationalize that it would take about 30 minutes for me to feel the effects of the alcohol, and by the time I was impaired, I would have arrived at my destination. I was very fortunate that I was not arrested for drinking and driving, or even worse, killing someone. Another example of risky and reckless behavior that I am still ashamed of today involved alcohol, operating while impaired, and my youngest daughter. I was consuming alcohol late morning into the early afternoon and had to pick up my youngest daughter at her mother's, my ex-wife's house, and take her to gymnastics. As we drove to gymnastics, I took a wrong turn and drove 21 miles out of the way. I drove 61 miles impaired by alcohol. For 46 of those miles, I had my youngest daughter with me. I used casual sex as a coping strategy and to distract myself from my emotional discomfort and pain. I would meet women, and sometimes within 30 minutes, we would have sex. This caused me more stress and anxiety than anything else. Sure, it felt great during sex, but it caused me more harm than good. I was constantly worried about pregnancy and contracting a sexually transmitted disease. Although this type of sexual behavior was risky, self-destructive, and caused me stress and anxiety, it was not enough to convince me to stop. I wanted an instant, feel-good escape from my life, and casual sex provided that for me. Another dangerous and unimaginable way I coped was by putting my duty weapon to my head. During my critical incident, it was a Glock 22 Gen 4 40 caliber. I put this weapon to my head at least a dozen times. Sometimes I even placed the barrel in my mouth. I would always remove the magazine, but for those of you who are not familiar with a Glock, if you don't rack the slide and remove the round from the chamber, it will still discharge a round. I very easily could have accidentally killed myself. My rationalization was that I simply wanted to hear and feel the metallic click of the trigger being pulled while the barrel of the gun was resting against my right temple. I did this while I was under the influence of alcohol. I still do not truly understand why I did this, and sometimes wondering how many times it happened while I was excessively consuming alcohol. I am very fortunate to be alive. In December 2021, I experienced a panic attack during an active shooter training, which led to a psychological assessment in January of 2022. The assessment lasted 7 hours and resulted in a 9-page mental health diagnosis. I thought about not being honest during the evaluation. I thought I could beat the evaluation. I chose to be honest with the evaluation and myself. That was the only way I could receive the type of help I needed. I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and PTSD with acute stress with dissociative features by the police department psychiatrist and deemed unfit for duty. This meant I was not able to return to work and needed to undergo intense psychotherapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, biofeedback, and dialectic behavioral therapy. I requested a 90-day leave of absence to work on my mental health in hope of returning to duty. I attended therapy 2 and 3 days a week for 90 days. I was finally undergoing the right kind of mental health treatment that helped me heal and understand why I adopted such poor coping strategies to self-medicate myself. I only wished I would have begun this therapy 5 years earlier, but it is better later than never. In April 2022, during my leave of absence, I was placed on a safety plan because of my suicidal ideations. The psychological exam discovered an elevated risk of harm to myself. I agreed to not engage in self-harm, destructive, or life-threatening behavior, or any other high-risk behavior to myself or others. I don't remember ever wanting to die by suicide, but my behaviors were very evident that I was heading in that direction. There were many nights I would pray to God that He would not let me wake up in the morning. In May 2022, I met with my police chief and was told my leave of absence was not going to be extended. I was given the option to resign or I would be terminated. I chose not to resign and was terminated. What next? I had been diagnosed with mental illness, on a safety plan, and terminated from a job I wanted since I was a little boy. I had been employed with the police department for 14 years. What if I had gone home and died by suicide? It was almost as if the police department washed their hands of me. I was ghosted by my coworkers, the same people who not only knew me professionally but personally. They knew my family, my daughters, helped me move, and even came to me with their own personal and professional mental health challenges. I would have died for them. I felt hopeless, helpless, and abandoned. I was devastated. I continued weekly therapy that includes in-person psychotherapy and eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. I am also prescribed Lexapro and Propanol as needed, which are medications that help me with my depression and generalized anxiety. I have faced many personal and professional mental health challenges after my critical incident, and it has taken me many years to get back on track. I am currently a police captain in Wisconsin. I am where I am today because I finally put myself first and moved past my poor coping strategies. I would not have been successful with healing my mental health without the unwavering support of my family, friends, colleagues, counselors, and even complete strangers. I am very grateful, and I will never be able to put into words how much their support means to me. I also want to thank my police chief, Sean McGee, for strongly supporting my mental health and the mental health of his officers. Chief McGee is helping to stop the stigma of mental health in the law enforcement profession. Chief McGee doesn't just talk the talk, he puts his words into action. Please reach out to someone if you believe they are struggling with their mental health. I know it may feel awkward or uncomfortable, but most people will not admit they are struggling, and most people will not reach out for help. You could be a light during a very dark time in their life. Remember, it's okay to talk about your health. You are not alone. Please do not suffer in silence.
Everyone is fighting a battle we know nothing about, so be kind. One of the strongest things you can do is to get help. Don't suffer in silence. Here are some resources if you are having a problem. You can dial 988. It's a national resource to get help for mental health and substance abuse. Most employers have resources available. 911 if you are currently in a crisis. For public safety and personnel in New Jersey, you can dial 1-800-COP-to-COP or go to their website, njcop2cop.com. It's a peer-to-peer program for law enforcement personnel to get help. New Jersey Fire and EMS Lifeline, which is 888-653-3367, or their website is newjerseyfireems.com. Or you can also go to Adam's website, which is www.stopthethreat.org.
Like we said in the beginning, very heavy topic, but one that's very close to my heart. There's no secret about it. I've done a full career in more than one aspect of public safety. And my family is literally full of public servants in all three of the major fire, police, and EMS. I've seen terrible things. I know people are carrying heavy weight and they're afraid of the stigma. What Adam's message is, and what I would urge everybody to do, is step out of the dark and get the help that you need.
So thank you for listening to our special bonus episode. We hope that it reaches a lot of you and gives you some help, some place to go, and some resources. We will also include these resources in our show notes. Until the next episode, just remember, you've got this, iDults. Keep your head up, your spirits high, and keep adulting with us. Go forth and conquer the world, or at least your to-do list.
And don't forget to like, follow, and or subscribe. Tell your friends, share the podcast, and head over to iDulting.com for more information and to connect with us. See you on the next episode. Be safe.